Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Brussels Signal podcast. Our topic today is Turkey and the EU's defense dilemma. Is Ankara a partner too far? I am Konstantinos Bogdanos. Yes, I am Greek, and you are already thinking that I might be biased. So I will try to be as objective and balanced as possible. Please just follow the argument. Europe's security mechanism is surely not at its best. This is a fact. As the war in Ukraine rumbles on and as in the Eastern Mediterranean there are tensions rising, the EU's military cupboard looks embarrassingly bare. So, in an urge to rearm and shore up defenses, some in Brussels turn their eyes to Turkey. It is normal. It is expected. Turkey is a NATO ally with a muscular army and a strategic foothold between continents. The debate is sharp because the thought is seductive indeed. Here is a NATO ally with a formidable army, with a strategic position between Europe and Asia, and a vested interest in regional stability. So, can Ankara be the missing piece in Europe's security puzzle? Or is it a mirage that distracts us from the bloc's need to stand on its own? The answer may not be simple, but it is clear. Turkey's track record makes it a shaky bet at best. Let's start with Cyprus, so as to tackle the elephant in the room. It is a festering wound on Europe's southern flank for over half a century. Now, Turkey has occupied 37% of an EU member state's territory, a fact that should make, by itself, any talk of partnership uneasy. But the Cyprus issue is not some dusty historical footnote. It is a live wire, a daily reminder of Ankara's willingness to defy international law when this is at its interest. The EU, for all its resolutions, has done little as Turkey colonizes the north, as it militarizes it and ignores UN Security Council mandates. And to imagine that this country could be a reliable cog in Europe's security mechanism is to confuse wishful thinking with strategy. Does a true partner violate your own borders? Then, one step away, there is Syria, where Turkey's fingerprints are all over the chaos. Ankara's involvement began with a noble rhetoric about toppling the Assad regime, but it quickly devolved into murky games of border change and proxy wars. And today, Ankara backs, if not to a great extent controls, the jihadist-leaning government in Damascus. So is this the behavior of a state that wishes to align itself with EU values? No. It is the playbook of a regional player flexing its muscles, no matter what the consequences are. Consequences be damned. So the EU, which prides itself on human rights and secular governance, cannot afford to tie its defense ambitions to a player which is so comfortable with extremism. The Eastern Mediterranean also offers us a cause or two for caution. Turkey's disputes with Greece and Cyprus over maritime rights are a calculated challenge to EU's sovereignty and resource claims. Ankara's gunboat diplomacy, from surveys in contested waters, violations of national waters and airspace, to maximalist declarations like the Mavi Vatan Blue Homeland dogma, it all reveals a nation which is much more interested in dominance than dialogue. Is this an actor to invite into a rearmament pact? And let us not forget the immigration mess. Turkey has long played gatekeeper to Europe's borders, holding millions of immigrants as a bargaining chip. The 2016 EU-Turkey deal was supposed to fix this, but it didn't, as Ankara selectively enforced that, opening and closing the floodgates for leverage. And this has fueled Europe's immigration woes. A security partner should not really wield your weakness as a weapon Yet here we are. And what about Ukraine? Well, Turkey's stance, we must give Turkey, this one, is a masterclass in ambivalence. On the one hand, it sells drones to Kyiv. On the other hand, Ankara refuses to join the EU's sanctions on Russia. And this may look like principled neutrality, but in fact it is opportunism. Contrast this with the EU's firm stance against Russia and its aggression, and you will see a gap which is objectively rather difficult to bridge, because a security partner must share your enemies, not flirt with them. Consider too the latest crackdown, which reveals Turkey's facade of democracy. It's a developing story. Turkish police have just arrested Istanbul's mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu, who is Erdogan's most formidable rival, on charges of corruption and alleged terrorist ties, effectively barring him from the presidential race. So the rule of law in Turkey reveals itself as a hollow shell, which hardly is the mark of a stable ally the EU wants to lean on in times of need. None of this, of course, is to say that Turkey lacks strengths. On the contrary, its military is very powerful. Its location is unmatched. Its diplomacy is outstanding, and its industrial capabilities are very robust. But strengths do not make a partner. Trust makes a partner, and trust is precisely what Ankara has been eroding for decades, from Cyprus to Syria, from the Mediterranean to migrant routes and beyond. The EU's defense shortcomings, its underfunded armies, its fragmented priorities, its reliance on American largesse are, of course, real, and they are very pressing. But the solution lies within, not across the Bosphorus. Europe must muster the will to rearm itself, to forge a unified security vision, and to stop outsourcing its backbone to dubious allies. History teaches us this. When empires lean on unsteady pillars, they crumble and fall. And the EU might not be an empire, but it fancies itself a global power. So if it wants to act like one, it should look into its own house. Germany's mothballed tanks, France's overstretched military, and those ceremonial contingents that some EU member states call armed forces, before knocking on Turkey's door. Ankara, in conclusion, may not be the devil, but it is also not the savior. And for once, Europe should decide to save itself. Thank you so much for watching.